Maxwell Thornton hated Tuesdays, not for any profound reason. They just seemed designed to maximize minor annoyances. Like today when the automated kitchen decided scrambled eggs should be the consistency of concrete, and the coffee machine developed an existential crisis mid-brew. Max, Joey put bioengineered gum in my hair again. 10-year-old Ellie burst into the kitchen, her normally straight brown hair sporting a pink, pulsating blob. Max sighed, setting down his half-filled coffee mug. Joey, front and center, cadet, a freckled boy with mischievous eyes shuffled in, failing spectacularly at looking innocent. It was just a science experiment, Mr. Max. That's what you said about the self-replicating slime incident last month. Max grabbed a jar of depolymer gel from a locked cabinet, one of many essential supplies he kept after retiring from Earth's Unified Defense Force 5 years ago. This was life at Starlight Orphanage, 26 children ranging from toddlers to teens, all under the care of one retired Commander Maxwell Thornton, and a rotating staff of community service volunteers. Located on the outskirts of New Phoenix, the sprawling single-story compound had been a military outpost before being repurposed after the resource wars. The children called it home. Max called it his retirement plan gone horribly wrong, and secretly, the best decision he'd ever made. All right everyone, breakfast and then chores. The Galactic Ambassador is visiting the school today, so uniforms must be inspection ready. Max's announcement was met with the collective groan of children, who'd rather be doing literally anything else. 12-year-old Tommy, their resident space enthusiast, perked up. Which species is visiting? Please say it's the Nelvarans with their color-changing skin. It's the Jula delegation, Max answered, working the pink gum out of Ellie's hair with practiced movements. And no, Tommy, you cannot ask them about their digestive systems again. That diplomatic incident took weeks to smooth over. But they have 3 stomachs. 3. Max suppressed a smile. Humanity had joined the galactic community only 30 years ago, practically infants in cosmic terms. Most established species viewed humans as annoying younger siblings, loud, unpredictable, and oddly fixated on asking uncomfortable personal questions. As the children ate breakfast, Max scrolled through the morning alerts on his datapad. Standard stuff, weather warnings about the approaching dust storm, community notices, and an automated security alert about unscheduled ships entering Earth's orbital space. Probably another trade delegation. The bureaucracy of interstellar relations meant there was always someone showing up unannounced, expecting Earth to roll out the welcome mat. Mr. Max, can we have pizza for dinner? Asked Lena, the youngest at 4 years old, her eyes wide with hope. We had pizza yesterday, Max reminded her. But yesterday was yesterday. Today is today, she replied with flawless 4-year-old logic. Max ruffled her curly hair. We'll see, squirt. Outside, the sunlight cast long shadows across the playground equipment installed where defensive turrets once stood. Children's laughter had replaced military drills. The old barracks now housed bunk beds, decorated with stuffed animals and glow-in-the-dark stars. It was a good life, mundane in the best possible way. Max wouldn't trade it for all the excitement of his former military career. Of course, the universe has a twisted sense of humor when it comes to people who appreciate mundanity. The Vakroxy High Command vessel Righteous Subjugation hung in Earth's orbit like an over-designed letter opener. Supreme Commander Vex Trell stood on the bridge, 6 limbs folded in the traditional posture of disgusted resignation. Explain again why we're bothering with this backwater planet, he demanded of his intelligence officer. Officer Krell adjusted her elaborate neck frill, a sign of nervousness among her kind. The humans have expanded to 17 colonies in just 3 decades. Supreme Commander, the Council believes they're disrupting established expansion protocols. So we're here to spank the children, Vex Trell grumbled. The Vakroxy Empire had dominated their sector for millennia before the Galactic Council forced them to play nice. These primitive humans needed to learn respect. Meanwhile, back at Starlight Orphanage, lunch was interrupted by an unfamiliar sound. A city-wide alert Max hadn't heard since the resource wars. Attention citizens, unidentified vessels have breached Earth defense perimeter. This is not a drill. Please proceed to designated shelter areas. Max's military instincts kicked in immediately. Everyone follow shelter protocol. Older kids help the youngers. Move. As the children scrambled with practiced efficiency, emergency drills were mandatory at Starlight. Max checked his military-grade datapad. The civilian channels showed nothing but confusion, but his old UDF access code still worked enough to get basic tactical data. What he saw made his blood run cold. 23 Vakroxy warships had bypassed Earth's defense grid through a diplomatic channel loophole and were now positioning for what appeared to be strategic strikes. But we're at peace with the Vakroxy, he muttered. hustling the last stragglers toward the shelter beneath the orphanage. The reinforced bunker was a leftover from the building's military days, one reason Max had chosen this location. Aboard the Righteous Subjugation, Intelligence Officer Krill presented her findings with unconcealed pride. We've identified multiple former military installations now being used by humans for unknown purposes. This one, she highlighted a compound on the tactical display, still registers energy signatures consistent with military equipment, and is occupied by a former UDF commander. Our intelligence suggests it's a covert training facility. Vextrel examined the holographic display of Starlight Orphanage. The Council authorized a single demonstration strike. We need to show these humans their place while technically adhering to peace treaties. He tapped the display with a clawed appendage. This target meets all parameters. A military installation repurposed for unknown use, isolated enough to minimize civilian casualties, yet close enough to a population center to send a message. Sir, his weapons officer interjected, atmospheric conditions will affect precision. We cannot guarantee minimal collateral damage. Vextrel's neck frill expanded in irritation. The humans need to understand their position in the galactic hierarchy. If a few extra structures are damaged, it only reinforces our message. In the orphanage shelter, Max had just finished accounting for all 26 children when the building above them shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling as lighting panels flickered. The younger children screamed while the older ones went eerily quiet, the reaction of those who had survived previous conflicts. Everyone stay calm, Max ordered, though his own heart hammered against his ribs. The shelter is designed to withstand. The second strike hit with devastating precision. A Vacroxy energy torpedo, designed to penetrate hardened military targets, punched through the upper levels and detonated just above the shelter. The blast overloaded the shelter's structural integrity field. Max's last conscious action was diving over 3 of the youngest children as the ceiling collapsed. In orbit, Vextrel received confirmation of the successful strike. Target neutralized, Supreme Commander. Energy signatures indicate complete destruction of the facility. Excellent. Vextrel's frill rippled with satisfaction. Send the recording to Galactic Council headquarters. The message should be clear. Humans must respect established boundaries. As emergency response vehicles raced toward the smoking ruins of Starlight Orphanage, none of the Vacroxy officers noticed the emergency transmissions flooding Earth's communication networks. None of them understood the significance of the words being repeated in horrified tones across every channel. They hit an orphanage. They bombed children. Had they understood human psychology better, the Vacroxy might have targeted anything else. Military bases, government buildings, even populated cities. Those would have provoked anger, retaliation, perhaps negotiation, but they had bombed children under protection. And in doing so, they had awakened something the galactic community had never witnessed in its million-year history. A humanity united in cold, calculated fury. The emergency session of the Galactic Council looked like a cosmic costume party gone wrong. 17 species representing the major powers sat around a massive translucent table, their appendages, tentacles, and occasionally gelatinous bodies twitching with unease. High Counselor Zhen of the Melbari Collective tapped a crystalline gavel. This emergency session will address the military action taken by the Vacroxy Empire against Earth, a protected developing world under Statute 7b. Vacroxy Ambassador Patoral rose, his elaborate ceremonial armor clanking. The Vacroxy Empire executed a perfectly legal surgical strike against a military installation. Our intelligence confirmed it was formerly a military outpost still containing military-grade technology, occupied by a human military commander. And what was this dangerous military installation? The human representative's voice was unnervingly calm. Ambassador Thomas Garcia had served as Earth's diplomatic face for nearly a decade. Known for his joviality and penchant for bringing exotic Earth snacks to meetings, he had never before appeared without his signature smile. Today his expression was carved from stone. It was clearly a training facility of some kind. Patoral continued, mandibles clicking with certainty. We have records of regular formations, organized activities, and basic combat training exercises. Garcia tapped his datapad. The central holographic display activated, showing footage of children playing tag, organized into teams for kickball, and practicing emergency evacuation drills. This, Garcia said quietly, is what you bombed. Patoral's neck frill contracted in confusion. These are small humans. We call them children. Juvenile humans who have not reached physical or mental maturity. Garcia's voice remained terrifyingly steady. And specifically, you bombed an orphanage. a home for children without parents, under the protection of a retired military officer who dedicated his post-service life to their care. The chamber erupted in multilingual chatter. The concept of children varied wildly across species. Many council members reproduced through methods that created fully formed adults or underwent metamorphosis in protected environments. The idea of semi-developed juvenile members of a species living in communal protection was foreign to most. Surely there must be some mistake, offered the Jula representative, their translucent skin pulsing with distress patterns. The Vicraxi would never intentionally target non-combatants. Intention is irrelevant. Garcia stood slowly. 26 children were sheltered there. 17 survived with injuries. 9 died, along with 3 adult caretakers. The facility supervisor, Commander Thornton, remains in critical condition. The chamber fell silent. I have been instructed, Garcia continued, to deliver humanity's response. He placed a simple black cube on the council table. It projected a holographic document. This is the Vicraxi's surrender document, prepared in all required formats according to galactic code. You have 1 standard rotation to sign it, and deliver those responsible for commanding this attack. Petoral's frill expanded in outrage. This is absurd. The Vicraxi Empire does not surrender to developing worlds over unfortunate targeting errors. Then perhaps, Garcia replied, removing the black cube, you should reconsider what classification applies to humanity. The Melbari High Counselor leaned forward, sensing dangerous undercurrents. Representative Garcia, surely diplomatic solutions remain available. The Council can arrange reparations, formal apologies. With respect, Counselor, Garcia interrupted, my instructions are quite clear. 1 rotation for surrender, or Earth will introduce the Vicraxi Empire to a concept from our history called total war. This is preposterous. Petoral slammed a clawed appendage on the table. The Vicraxi military outclasses Earth's by every metric. Our empire spans 47 worlds. Garcia gathered his materials and headed for the door. He paused, looking back at the assembled representatives. You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation or a threat. It is a courtesy notification. His eyes swept the room. We suggest all non-Vicraxi vessels clear a 1 parsec radius around Vicraxi space within the next 12 hours. As the door closed behind him, the council chamber remained in stunned silence. Most species considered humans diplomatically naive, technologically behind, but generally harmless. Something in Garcia's eyes made them reconsider that assessment. Throughout human history, there have been moments when the perpetual chaos of human division suddenly crystallizes into terrifying unity. The bombing of Starlight Orphanage joined that infamous list. Within 1 hour of confirmation, Earth's 7 previously bickering continental governments unanimously activated the Phoenix Protocol, a military contingency that had never progressed past theoretical exercises. Status report, demanded Admiral Helena Reyes, watching holographic displays flicker to life throughout Earth Fleet Command. Commander Liang, Operations Chief, swiped through rapidly updating screens. All civilian ships larger than 500 tons are being requisitioned and retrofitted. Retirement recalls have a 98.7% acceptance rate. Manufacturing centers are converting to military production worldwide. 98.7. Reyes raised an eyebrow. That's unprecedented. The footage from the orphanage went viral, ma'am. We're actually having to turn away volunteers. Reyes nodded grimly. And Project Lazarus? Liang's expression darkened. The mothballed fleet is being reactivated. 57 ships previously deemed obsolete will be combat-ready in 18 hours. On screens throughout the command center, dots representing Earth vessels converged from across the solar system. The last time humanity had unified military command was during the Resource Wars. That had been brutal enough between human factions. No alien species had yet witnessed humanity's capacity for organized violence. Meanwhile, in New Phoenix Memorial Hospital, Max Thornton opened his eyes to discover half his body encased in medical gel. A grim-faced military officer stood beside his bed. Commander Thornton, I'm General Warren. I'm sorry to disturb your recovery, but time is critical. Max tried to speak, found his throat raw from smoke inhalation. The kids, 17 survived. They're being treated 2 floors down. Max closed his eyes briefly in relief, then grief as the math registered. 9 hadn't made it. The attack was perpetrated by the Vicraxi Empire, continued the general. Earth has activated the Phoenix Protocol. Max's eyes widened. That's theoretical last resort planning. Not anymore. We're implementing Phase 3. Christ. Max struggled to sit up. That's full military mobilization. We need you, Commander. Your expertise with Vicraxi tactical systems during the Proxima incident is unmatched. And, the general's professional demeanor cracked slightly. Those were your kids they bombed. Max's expression shifted from pain to something far more dangerous: purpose. When I retired, Max said softly, I swore I was done with war. I chose to build something instead of destroying. His hands gripped the medical bed rails until his knuckles whitened. I had 26 children under my protection. 9 won't ever see adulthood now. Does that mean you're in? Get me out of this gel. I want to command the strike team personally. Across Earth, similar scenes played out as retired military personnel returned to service. Civilian shipyards converted to produce weapons. University engineering departments submitted classified designs previously deemed too aggressive for peaceful galactic relations. In orbit, Earth's disparate defensive fleet consolidated into battle formations. Ships that normally competed for trade routes now moved in practiced military precision, their civilian transponders replaced with tactical designations. At the edge of the solar system, long-dormant defense platforms hummed to life, their weapons systems cycling through calibration sequences. Aboard the Vacraxi flagship, Supreme Commander Vextral received Earth's message with contemptuous amusement. They demand our surrender. Based on what capability? He scoffed, showing the transmission to his bridge officers. Intelligence Officer Krill studied the message with more concern. Supreme Commander, our understanding of human psychology may be incomplete. Their response seems disproportionate. They're an emotional species mourning an unfortunate targeting error. Vextral dismissed. Their total war concept is empty rhetoric. Their ships are centuries behind ours technologically. Perhaps we should consider a diplomatic, I will not apologize for enforcing galactic order. Vextral's frill expanded fully in dominance display. Position the fleet defensively if it makes you feel better, but these humans will learn their place. Little did he know that across the galaxy, non-human vessels were already rapidly evacuating Vacraxi space, their captains urgently citing unspecified maintenance requirements, while privately sharing a growing apprehension about humanity's uncharacteristic silence across all diplomatic channels. The countdown to Earth's deadline ticked inexorably towards zero. The Vacraxi battlecruiser Unwavering Doctrine maintained standard patrol patterns at the edge of the Krell system. Commander Dexmol found these assignments tediously boring, nothing but endless sensor sweeps looking for smugglers trying to bypass tariff stations. Sir, called his sensor officer, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the L5 point. Define unusual, Dexmol replied, not bothering to look up from his strategic game. It reads like a spatial distortion, but doesn't match any known drive signatures. Now Dexmol raised his head. Smugglers trying something new. No sir, the officer never finished his sentence. 57 Earth vessels dropped out of FTL simultaneously, emerging far closer than any reasonable ship should have been able to decelerate. The outdated human technology should have required a wide safety margin for interstellar jumps. These ships appeared with surgical precision, already inside Vacraxi defensive perimeters. The human vessels did not hail, negotiate, or issue warnings. They simply opened fire. The Unwavering Doctrine exploded before Commander Dexmol could even order shields raised. Similar scenarios played out across Vacraxi space. Earth's supposedly obsolete ships executing maneuvers that Vacraxi Tactical Doctrine classified as suicidally reckless or physically impossible. Supreme Commander Vextral watched in disbelief as real-time casualty reports flooded in. 1/3 of the Vacraxi fleet destroyed in the first 17 minutes of engagement. How are they penetrating our defenses? He demanded. His commanding presence diminished by genuine shock. Intelligence Officer Krill's frill was fully contracted in stress. They're using unorthodox tactics, sir. Their ships are executing FTL micro-jumps between weapon discharges. That's impossible. The energy requirements alone, they're sacrificing their drive cores to do it, she explained, voice strained. The ships burn out after a few jumps, but by then they've already delivered their payloads. Vextral stared at the tactical display in dawning horror. They're destroying their own vessels. They appear to be using the oldest ships in their fleet as single-use weapons platforms. The Vacraxi military had always operated on principles of strategic value. Resources were preserved, advantages maximized, losses minimized. This doctrine had served them through centuries of imperial expansion, but the humans weren't playing by those rules. Meanwhile, a stealth insertion craft approached the Vacraxi flagship Righteous Subjugation. Inside, Max Thornton finished checking his tactical gear while 16 former Special Operations veterans did the same. Half his body was still healing, with medical nanopacks integrated into his combat suit. Approaching insertion point, announced the pilot. Stealth systems at maximum. Max addressed his team. Once we're aboard, we split into 3 teams. Alpha secures the bridge. Beta takes engineering. My team goes after Vextral. Intel confirmed he's on board, asked Singh, a demolitions expert whose grandchild had been among the orphanage survivors. Max nodded grimly. Priority target. Remember the mission parameters. We're making a point, not just killing enemies. The team understood. This wasn't just revenge, it was education. When the Vakroxy security teams detected the human intrusion, they responded with textbook defensive formations, which proved catastrophically ineffective against humans fighting with cold precision. Max's team carved through the ship's defenses with ruthless efficiency. Where Vakroxy troops engaged according to honor protocols developed over millennia, the humans used ventilation systems, improvised explosives, and combat techniques that prioritized effectiveness over ceremony. On the bridge, Supreme Commander Vextrol ordered his personal guard to form a defensive perimeter as alarms blared throughout the ship. They cannot possibly reach the command deck, he assured his increasingly nervous officers. Our internal defenses are the finest in the galaxy. The bridge doors exploded inward. Through the smoke strode a single human, parts of his body visibly augmented with medical technology. Behind him lay the bodies of 12 elite Vakroxy guards. Supreme Commander Vextrol, Max stated, his voice terrifyingly calm. I believe you owe me 9 children. Vextrol activated his ceremonial energy blade. Who are you to challenge me, human? My name is Maxwell Thornton. I ran Starlight Orphanage, the military installation you bombed. Max raised his weapon, then unexpectedly lowered it again. But I'm not here to kill you. Confusion rippled through Vextrol's frill. Then what? I'm here to take you to meet the survivors. Before Vextrol could respond, Max fired a specialized restraint device that immobilized the Vakroxy commander. Throughout the flagship, similar scenes played out as key Vakroxy officers were captured rather than killed. Within 42 minutes of the initial attack, the Vakroxy command structure had collapsed. Humanity had demonstrated a capacity for coordinated violence that shocked the galactic community, not just in its effectiveness, but in its cold, calculating execution. The Vakroxy Empire, which had dominated its sector for 37 centuries, surrendered unconditionally less than 6 hours after Earth's deadline expired. They had not understood what total war meant. Now they did. The Galactic Council chamber was standing room only as representatives from every recognized species gathered to witness the formal peace treaty. The atmosphere crackled with tension and something else, something new in galactic politics: fear of humans. Ambassador Garcia stood beside Admiral Reyes as the Vakroxy delegation entered. Supreme Commander Vextrol, now stripped of his elaborate armor and wearing simple diplomatic garb, led the procession. His once dominant posture now seemed diminished, his neck frill permanently contracted in submission. The treaty has been prepared according to all recognized protocols, announced High Counselor Zen. Before signing, are there any final statements? Garcia nodded. Earth has a demonstration. The chamber doors opened. Max Thornton entered, walking with a slight limp, a permanent reminder of the orphanage bombing. Behind him came 17 children of varying ages, each bearing visible scars from the attack. Whispers rippled through the chamber. Many species had still struggled to grasp the concept of children, despite extensive educational materials distributed after the conflict. Ellie, the girl who had complained about bioengineered gum in her hair on that fateful day, stepped forward. Now she had a prosthetic left arm and burned scars across her face. My name is Ellie, she said, her voice amplified through the chamber's translation systems. I am 10 years old. Before the bombing, I wanted to be a diplomat when I grow up. She approached Vextrol directly, showing no fear of the being twice her size. Mr. Max says I should still try to be a diplomat. He says understanding is better than fighting. She tilted her head. Do you have children? The Vakroxy commander seemed completely bewildered by being addressed by a small human. My species does not have a prolonged developmental stage. That's sad, Ellie replied with the brutal honesty of childhood. Maybe that's why you didn't understand what you were bombing. The chamber fell silent as each child stepped forward, stating their name, their age, and something about their lives before the attack. Some spoke of lost friends, others showed their scars. None expressed hatred, only a profound sadness that cut deeper than any accusation could have. When the last child finished, Max stepped forward. The children have requested clemency for the Vakroxy people, he announced, causing gasps throughout the chamber. They believe in second chances. Admiral Reyes took over. Therefore, the treaty includes these key provisions. First, all schools, medical facilities and care centers for developing beings are now classified as protected neutral zones under galactic law. Second, the Vakroxy Empire will establish cultural exchange programs focused on understanding species with developmental stages, Garcia added. And third, The commander responsible for the orphanage bombing will serve his sentence by working with human children, teaching them Vakraxi language and culture while learning about human childhood. Vextrol's frill rippled with shock. This is unconventional punishment. It's not punishment, Max corrected. It's education. You didn't understand what you were destroying, now you'll learn. The treaty was signed without further debate. As the formalities concluded, species that had previously viewed humans as diplomatically naive, now watched with newfound respect and caution. 1 year later, Max Thornton led the first delegation of orphanage children to visit the Vakraxi homeworld. The reconstruction of Starlight Orphanage had been completed with contributions from 17 different species. Now it stood as both a home for children and an interspecies cultural center. In a garden specially designed for human children on the Vakraxi capital world, Ellie showed a group of fascinated Vakraxi scientists how to play tag. Nearby, Vextrol, now serving as childhood development ambassador, watched with a frill pattern that xenobiologists had recently classified as contemplative. I still don't fully understand, he admitted to Max, who sat beside him on a bench. How can a species devote so many resources to members who cannot yet contribute? Max smiled slightly. That's the point your people missed. We don't protect children because of what they can do, we protect them because of what they can become. In the distance, Vakraxi ships patrolled alongside human vessels, now allies rather than enemies. Throughout the galaxy, species that reproduced, through entirely different methods, were establishing equivalent protected development zones for their young. You could have destroyed our empire, Vextrol noted. Your total war concept was devastatingly effective. War wasn't the point, Max replied, watching Ellie laugh as she taught alien beings a human game. The point was making sure you never considered targeting children again. He turned to meet Vextrol's compound eyes. Humanity has a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. We've just expanded our definition of village to include the galaxy. As the children played under alien skies, the galaxy had begun to understand a fundamental truth about humanity. Their capacity for violence was matched only by their capacity for forgiveness. But you really didn't want to make them choose violence, especially not when kids were involved.